Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming to the Chicago Archaeological Society. Thank you for joining us. Uh, my name is Ray Young. I'm the president of the Chicago Archaeological Society. So what is the Chicago Archaeological Society, right? Let's see here. All right, you can find out more about us on our website and you can email us. But from my understanding, our group has been around for almost 100 years, meeting in different forms. Not even sure when the name came about, but I know it started being used in the 1960s, the Chicago Archaeological Society. And back then, the mission was established to study the existence of mankind. Now, later, the Archaeological Society, the Chicago Archaeological Society, joined with the IAAA, which is the Illinois Association for the Advancement of Archaeology. And we got a second mission statement, is to bring together all the professionals, amateurs, and enthusiasts that want to discuss, talk about, research the archaeology of Illinois. So we became a chapter of the Illinois Association for the Advancement of Archaeology, and there are several chapters throughout Illinois. So when you become a member of the Chicago Archaeological Society, you also become a member of the IAAA. And like I said, they have chapters all over Illinois, and they have meetings like we do today. All right. Thank you for your support. So the people that I'm preaching to the choir to, you're already members, you already know what we do. Thank you. Thank you for your support. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. Your generous donations, your membership allows us to have fantastic speakers like we have today, and publish our newsletter, the Codex. So we have a monthly newsletter, comes out, 9 times a year, about the events that we're doing, about our talks from the previous months and future months. And as a member of the Illinois Association for the Advancement of Archaeology, you get their magazine that comes out, Illinois Antiquity, that has fantastic information about the archaeology of Illinois. All right, I've said a lot. Okay, an upcoming event that's like you all to come out to is the Mitchell Museum of the American Indian. So that's in Evanston, planning on going there on June 20th at 11 a.m. So check your Codex. Ann, did you want to speak on the summer safari at all?
I think that's the basic information.
Okay. Oh, Ann, could you come up to the podium so the Zoom people, we have a fair amount of people. Thank you for all the Zoom people. We have a fair amount of people on Zoom today.
The Mitchell Museum has, well, sort of 2.5 floors of displays, and the first floor and the lower level have excellent regional displays. And the benefit of them over some of the other museums is that for each of the regional displays, they've got a table that has a nice set of hands-on material. So for adults who like to handle things, or if you've got kids along, it's really exceptional in terms of the accessibility, being able to touch things and then get the other information. At this point in time, and I'm quite sure it's still going, the second floor has an exhibit on missing and murdered Native American women, which is a real issue within those communities. And it's a little bit hard even for adults with having seen some of the display, and it certainly is not a place to go ahead and take children, younger children, even, grade school children. But there's plenty in the other displays for families and individuals of all ages. So I hope that you'll be able to come out and join us there. I'm not positive at the moment. There is a fee for the tour. It will be one of their docents who's giving the tour, and I'm not sure whether it's $5 or $10 a person, but I will. Well, we send out some of that information. We can put it on the Facebook page, and it's in the Codex for when it arrives, and it's on the website. It'll be on the website. So please come join us.
Thank you, Ann. All right. So certainly encourage people to renew their memberships or to join. And to do so, you could do that at our website, chicagoarchaeological.com. And if you just have a question, want to reach out, you can email us info@chicagoarchaeology.org. All right, so today we have a speaker today who is a longtime friend of the society, Monette Bebow Reinhard. So longtime friend of the society and member, and she, for our in-person audience, is giving out some books. So she has published a book that she is selling on Amazon, but will give away today, and is selling some in the back. In addition, you have another book that you had an extra one to give out. Oh, okay. It's a big site in Michigan, a lot of detail, archaeological site up there. And then her book today, she can tell you more about it. Illinois Copper Artifact Resource Manual. All right. So let me tell you a little bit more about Monette. Okay. She is a historian of copper artifacts in ancient North America, former curator of the Oconto Copper Burial Museum, and she has published her own ancient copper newsletter for many years. She has created the Copper Artifact Master Database, which is a compilation of pre-contact copper artifacts that she has identified in various sources from Canada through South America, in storage and on display by both museums and collectors. The Copper Artifact Database, the CAMD, gives us a better picture of what pre-contact metal industry was like in the ancient Americas, because we have more access to what we found in a single location and can figure out how far certain types have traveled. She has compiled more than 65,000 artifacts in her database. And what? 65,000? Oh, it's 85,000 artifacts in her database. Oh, wow. And decided to start releasing them to the public. She has she's also an accomplished writer. She has 4 nonfiction books and 6 fiction novels. Her most recent is republished of her Grimm's American Fairy Tales. She is retired and volunteers for the Red Cross. Her lecture today is a continuation of what she presented in early April at the Society of American Archaeology in Portland. She will be working out of the Illinois Copper Artifact Resource Manual to demonstrate all of the copper connections. Her focus will be on several types of artifacts where they can be tracked. Her overall goal was with this research is to demonstrate the trade network reaching throughout the Americas. She will have copies of her book available with half of the proceeds going to our organization, the CAS, but copies can also be found on Amazon in case you wanted to read that, check it out, and please ask questions. So please welcome Monette. I need to switch over the, yeah, let's see. Zoom is
Introduction. I feel like it's got everything. I can go home now. I really sorry I'm not more famous. I really wanted to fill up the room, but you know, I really appreciate y'all being here. Thank you.
here.
Empty room. It's like this in Portland. They gave me a really lousy time slot. Sunday morning, everybody went home, right? Great. So we had this.
Yeah, we have
Portland Society.
13 people on Zoom.
What's that?
Oh, say we have 13 people on Zoom. All right. Yeah, I got to share it out to Zoom now. Let's see.
Okay, I gotta get the Zoom going.
Yeah, Zoom is seen as a separate monitor.
How many? I did it 2013 the last time. How many of you were here? Oh, yeah,
I
one.
don't remember. the
2.
details,
All right.
So.
Huh?
I don't remember the details, so.
I'm not gonna push. 2013, I'm just getting started. So.
Okay,
Got a lot of.
Okay, here you go. The podium is yours.
Thank you.
All right, and there's the
Thank you very
microphone and
much.
there's.
Oh, my
microphone
gosh.
Right up here.
Oh, I don't want to look at myself. That looks really weird. All right. My presentation is talking about the Illinois data, but also expanding that out so that we can see what a trade network looks like in copper. And I'm not famous, but I am kind of crazy because nobody else has tried to do what I'm doing here. Let's see now if I can figure out how to do this. Okay, nope. Wait. All right, enter. It should go to the next page, but it's, oh,
Have to go
what do you
over
have
the-
to do?
I have to click on the other monitor.
And can you point the mic
There we go.
closer to her face too, please?
What do I have to use? I have to use these things?
Yes.
These little down things like this?
Yeah.
Oh, what about if I want to see my notes?
Oh,
Speaker notes,
okay, here, we can do that.
okay.
There we go.
Oh.
Now I still need to pick over here so it knows which screen to talk to. Okay, there. Does that
Oh.
work?
Oh, no, I
Here,
don't
I-
see the speaker notes anywhere. I don't see them.
There.
Because what I did with, at home was I used my mouse and I clicked on
Okay.
it. Brought 'em
Is
up.
that's it?
I guess I don't. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
That's my speaker notes. Oh,
Okay.
they'll be there then?
Yes, they'll be there and then, yeah, then you have that over there.
Okay.
Just use
we're-
the arrows.
We're cooking now. All right, thank you.
You're
All right. Now, I just wanted to say that if you want to pass around one of my books so people can look inside of it, I have a copy of the Witchery back there that you can pass around as well. A brief summary, for those of you who don't know what a Copper Artifact Master Database is, I actually started getting interested in a trade network when I was doing my bachelor's at UWGB. I took a class on the Aztec, Anasazi, Maya, and Inca. And I'm noticing timelines and things that moving around with those folks. And then when I got my master's in history and I went back to home and I found Oconto, which was in my backyard, basically north of Green Bay, north of Abrams, they had a copper burial museum there. So I got the job as curator, basically a volunteer job. And I worked there for 3 years. And I discovered that the copper wasn't really being treated right. It wasn't being understood. And so when I left after 3 years, I needed a paying job, I took the copper with me. I decided that we need to know more about the copper industry and we needed to give it the respect to the Native Americans that it deserves. And what I did then was I took the Hamilton collection in Madison. If any of you have ever seen that one, the Hamilton collection is in the basement of the Wisconsin Historical Society. Huge collection on the wall down there, if you ever get a chance to go there. But it's arranged by type and not by location. And to me, that doesn't tell you anything about the people who made them when you just see the types, right? So I took the Hamilton database and I reorganized it, and that developed into the 85,000 that I had, 10 years later. And then I realized, well, I got to do something with all this data. I can't just, let it sit in my computer. And that's why I started the resource manuals. I have 3 done, and I'm working on number 4. I'm doing it because, well, you're going to see in a minute, I have more information. And I hope people will see that there's a lot to this America's trade just through copper. I mean, obviously there's stone points and there's pottery and there's all, but the copper is easiest to compile. I wouldn't want to try and compile stone points, right? But what I found out when I go to a lot of museums is they don't have the right name on some of these artifacts. And that puts us in a bad spot when we're trying to track what the item is if they don't have the same name. So I've been doing that for museums too, is changing their nomenclature. And I've got a lot of students now, archaeology students who are interested in the books. And I even have a collector who thinks it's the best thing ever, but I do not encourage collecting. Okay, I'm very careful about that. So that's what I'm doing here tonight. I wanted to demonstrate how Illinois fit into this copper trade network. And we all need, I believe, to develop a greater respect for the natives who were here. But mostly I'm doing this to show how great their civilizations were. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to read from 3 of the, from a little paragraph from each of the 3 manuals to show you how I develop, why I'm doing this. From Michigan, I wrote, I was bombarded when I was curator at O'Connell Copper Burial Museum with Michigan people who seriously believed that copper was missing from the Lake Superior copper mines and taken to the old world to build the Bronze Age. They believe that the natives here had help in learning to tool in copper. Not true. Northern Wisconsin, I wrote, I'm a historian, and as such, gathering sources to reflect on what's written about these materials is what I do. So I go to sources as well as museums and collectors. I advise you, for interpretive purposes, to get a free copy of the Witry updated typology. I brought a copy of it. You can look at it. It's nearly 23 pages with photos, and it's always free and available and kept updated at academia.edu, or you can email me directly. This is a resource for scholars, museums, and anyone interested in pre-contact copper materials. And it is vital to have a copy if you have one of the resource manuals, because I put the code for that artifact in the database, because putting the description every time would just get too crazy and harder to search on. If you want to search on all of the data that's an IA, it's easier to do that than try to search on all the ones that have descriptions in them. So that's what I wrote in Northern Wisconsin. So now you know what the data copper artifact master database is all about. Illinois, it will be surmised here that though Michigan was the first copper resource manual printed as closest to the main source of copper, and Wisconsin is the state with the most copper artifacts, Illinois is where copper tooling began. All right, let's see. Why are awls on the cover of that copper resource manual? Why do I have awls on there? Do you see the other two back there? They have, you know, a little more interesting looking pieces. I have awls on the cover. Now, if you see, this is part of the Witry updated, or Witry, what Warren Witry originally created was this group for awls. He had all these different groups. This is the awls group. You'll notice that A1 and A2 are his, and I added A3 and A3A. That's what I've been doing with the Witry updated, because I'm seeing so much more copper than he ever saw. He based his on the Hamilton collection mostly. He had a few other things to look at. There's the B1, that is, but he didn't put B1 by it, did he? So he just has a B group. So I put B1 and B2, and then I also added a B3. Now that one's going to be, excuse me, and the Michigan, that's in the Michigan. The Michigan manual I am re-editing right now, so it'll be available in second edition the end of this month. But that's the reason that awls are on the cover. I'm going to share in just a second. One reason is that I couldn't get a response from Dixon Mounds because I had a couple of pictures I wanted from there. This cover is from Cahokia. They allowed me to use that, so I appreciate them. Okay, let's see, all connection. Limestone, this, and I've never seen an all connection anywhere else before. It's just that Illinois is the first place. Limestone is a hopeful connection between Albany Mounds and La Crosse, Wisconsin. Boone County Mesa Axe was also found in La Crosse. La Crosse was suggested as a place to look for connections to Havana Hopewell. Titterington indicated that the Osceola Point site in Potosi had 21 awls similar to Hemp Hill. That was my first indication of a connection using awls. They were likely beadmaker awls. And there are a lot of beadmaker sites in Illinois. I have a map in the summary in the book that does show that. But we'll also have Putney Landing in Iowa, or Putney Landing in Illinois, connected by awls to the Tewksboro group in Iowa. And in a number of sites in Illinois, only awls were found as the copper there. So where's Potosi? Anybody know? Potosi is in southwestern Wisconsin. I believe it's in Grant County. So it is south of La Crosse, but it might have been on the route because you've got La Crosse is right on the Mississippi River, right? It's beautiful. If you haven't been to La Crosse, you should go there. Let's see. All right, so here is an artifact I want to talk about. I call it a trade pendant. There are a number of pendants that are so specifically designed, but we can't just take a group of pendants like I have here and make comparisons. Why not? Because the timelines may be different. Trade networks need to be dissected and sorted into proper cultural eras. Now, this one, for instance, this big one, I love this big one. Do you notice those dotted lines? There's 3 coming down, up and down. There's 1 going across. I think that's late archaic. And the only reason I think that, because I don't have a date on it, is because it's a rougher looking than what the Hopewell came up with later on. But it could be early Hopewell. I'm thinking early woodland. And the reason I think that is because I think they started making these designs in their copper once they started with pottery. And they said, oh, let's do designs on our copper too. And the way they did that was they would heat up a pointed awl. They would heat up and then they would peck it right into the copper like that. Anyway, what we have are teardrop awls. You see Marathon County has one. You see Menominee County has one. The teardrop is considered a Hopewell design or Hopewell artifact. Then we have the scalloped edges, also considered Hopewell. We have the disc stone copper covered starburst design. What would that be? That's Mississippian. That's Mississippian because Mississippian was mostly copper covered artifacts. Okay. So you have to take those apart that way and then track them. The Gogobeck County perforated in the middle with a design like the Teal cross. I'm going to show you that. That one's interesting. All right. The Gogobeck, see the middle one is very flat looking. It's very thin looking, but you've got circles all around the outside of the design. Do you see that over here? Circles around the outside of the design, and then you have a cross like that. That is like a Teotihuacan symbol. So that's Gogobeck County. That's in Michigan. The teardrop is like the Menominee County, and also, oh no, that's the only teardrop I have shown here. But I have a lot of the pendants. I'm just showing you some. The Menominee County, it has pecked holes too, and that could be a star constellation, couldn't it? Same with the Oneida County one. That one looks like the Big Dipper. I was told the Oneida one could be a hairpiece for a small head, but you know, we're guessing. It's also rougher looking than Hopewell, so it's probably early woodland as well. The scallops would be in Forest County, and then down here, that's Cook County, possibly, and then this one over here. No Davis County. It's like they tried, it's like they attempted to do the scallop on those pieces. Now the Green County, that is the copper covered ear spool with the starburst on it. And in Fulton County, you'll see the circle with the cross, also possibly related to Mesoamerica. Let's take a look at, oops, oh, that worked. Okay. All right, I have a lot of maps in my books because I love maps. And you can take a map and you can put in these codes, and the codes will say, okay, these were found in this area. And then you see what you call a pattern of where certain artifacts are showing up. The X, for instance, just along that area, I believe of Lake Superior, that's the only place those X's are turning up. This one on the left, of course, that's Michigan. And that to me is fascinating. So that's what you can do with any artifact you find in the Copper Artifact Resource Manual. You can track it and figure out where they ended up. The other one is Wisconsin, and I do the same thing here. And you'll see more detail in the books, of course. I just wanted to show you that I do map things. I really like maps. This one shows where the pendants were found that I showed on the screen. And you're looking along the Illinois River. That's a big place for artifacts. But you know that artifacts and people are going to travel by water. So you're going to find more artifacts along, and more villages and more settlements along waterways. I mean, Cook County is along Lake Michigan, right? And Joe Davies County, that's along the Mississippi. So you're always going to find them by waterways. And waterways, remember, were higher at some point in time in late Archaic. And then we have them going like that. I covered that in the book. I can't remember everything I write. Okay. This is from a presentation I gave in Cahokia. It's a little messy. And unfortunately, I lost the key code for it. I did that in 2014 and unfortunately used OneDrive and it kind of ate a lot of my work. But what this shows you, and each color is probably a different era, but Fort Ancient up there had a lot of serpent effigies. And then I show where they all went. Because what most archaeologists agree is that the more artifacts you find in one location, the more likely it is that they were made there and traded out. That's their trade value, okay? So I have all kinds of trade values for a number of sites. And like I said, I believe each color means something different. Well, you can see Spiro over there, how much trading out it did, right? All kinds of stuff went out from Spiro. I'm not sure what the gold one is. Anyway, that's what that is. And that's another fascinating way to develop your trade network. And I could probably take some of these out even farther than just where I have it here. All right. This is the copper pendant tally in all of the states in the Copper Artifacts Master Database. Anybody see anything interesting? Something that jumps out at them? No pendants? And these are all the pendants, not just the fancy ones, not just the pretty ones, not just the pecked ones. These are all of them. Anybody see anything interesting?
Most are in Central America.
Yeah.
The second most are in South and Central Wisconsin.
South America has 46.
The third most. In
Yeah, look at South and Central.
The rest would just have a very, very few.
58. I know. Most of the states don't have very many at all. But you do see more in Georgia, Florida. North Carolina has 8 in a single location. Mexico has only 15 compared to South America. And Central America, 61. But what state besides Wisconsin has the most? Oregon. That is really bizarre in my opinion. Oregon has 40. Now, some of these could be misidentified. It's when I'm pulling the book together that I make my major corrections to the data. For when I'm doing the compilation, I just put in what most of the time what is said about it. I can't see every artifact in the database, unfortunately. Sometimes I just have to go with what they give me. And well, I always have to go with what they give me. Sometimes that does not include a photo or a description. They call it a pendant. Okay, I'll put it in as a pendant. But when I start working on that manual, then I get more in depth on it. And here's the pendant, the tally in Illinois, Northern Wisconsin, and Michigan. So what do we see in Illinois? Most appear to be late Hopewell to Mississippian. In Wisconsin, most in connection with Riverside at the Monette County, which is right across the river from Riverside. In Michigan, we don't see that many, but it could be the type of pendant that was found there that matters, right? If in my theory, a trade pendant was something that they wore up to the copper mines, starting in the late Archaic, 3000 BCE, maybe that was their passport saying, I have the right to mine copper. And they wore that pendant as that to demonstrate that right. That's just an idea. I didn't think we could ever prove. And then we have, if you look at the Wisconsin, the total of 31, add that to the other two, and you've got nearly 100 pendants in Wisconsin. But what occurred to me when I saw that was, what if in Wisconsin, we have middlemen who go up, get the raw copper, bring it down to somewhere in Wisconsin, and then people come up and negotiate for that copper. I mean, is that possible? Why not? You know, there could be copper middlemen working in Wisconsin. Why does Wisconsin have so much? Now, I have to tell you, Wisconsin has a lot of fragments. So there are a lot of copper tooling work sites in Wisconsin. Okay. Let's see. All right. Now, I like symbol iconography. I like seeing, seeing how symbols, carry around to different places. Like there's that circle and cross from Teotihuacan. We saw that on a pendant, right? Now, this right here, that's a double parrot. You can see his beaks on both sides. He's a double parrot. And he was found in Illinois. I believe around Fulton, somewhere in Fulton County. You can see the blue arrow pointing to a parrot in the Maya glyph. You can see a blue arrow pointing to a circle and cross in the Maya glyph. So these symbols carry around. I mean, we know that. We've seen that, you know. Now the bird on the right, that was found in Illinois. And notice his feathers on his head. That's got that kind of a scallop design, doesn't it? So I'm wondering if that scallop pendant is indicating a bird. You know, it's hard to say, but it's possible. Now here, one of my big mysteries in Illinois, makes me very sad. This mystery bell necklace was found in a Illinois museum, but they didn't know, they couldn't say where it was found. They say it's a Mexican necklace. They believe it was found in Mexico and brought up in more recent times. Now, the bells in that one can be compared to the bell over here on the right, which was found in Central America. Now, the bell on the right is obviously bronze, whereas those are earlier creations. And the bell on the left, here in Central America, looks actually quite a bit like the bell in the lower right, which is a Spanish hawk bell. Now, when I talked to Michael Smith after he presented here a few months back, I asked him if the Spanish hawk bell or the hawk bell is always Spanish made, and he said no. So he started me on a journey of, okay, what bell were they creating that became one that the Spanish then began to imitate? So that's something, and my next book is going to be Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. And I'm including, because there's not a lot of copper there, I'm including a copper bell survey, which is going to be from Canada all the way down to South America. I'm going to show the trade network through bells. But that's why, and this little drawing here, that's from Pendergast. But the last time a bell survey was done was using his data, and they put it in let's see, Arizona, New Mexico, and northern Mexico was all they did looking at these bells. So I'm expanding that a great deal in my book. But one of the things I'm going to look for is the pre-contact hawk bell. They're not always Spanish. Now, this one is something I discovered just recently. Notice the tail feather on these cells. The one on the left, the one on the right. They look like cells, don't they? This is type 6 cells. Those are cells. Those are, you see those, they've been around a long time. I believe they started making those in the Archaic. And as they evolved through the Hopewell, they became thinner, more stylized, more flared. By the time you got to Mississippian, they're doing this with the celts. Those tails are celt blades. That's what they are. I mean, you've got the scallop on the head. Why not put it on the tail? Because it's a ritual celt. That one on the right, that was found in Florida. Same thing, ritual celt tail. Look at any of these you find in any book, and you're going to see that, except, notice the Malden plates? Those were found like in a discarded heap. Not a single one of them has the tail celt. So it's almost like they were killed, or they broke and they had to be discarded. Not one of them has that tail, and they are the same thing. They're all the same kind of design as the one on the left. So, but those are ritual celts. Okay, now we'll get into my favorite theory about Cahokia. Everybody been to Cahokia, right? I mean, it's just a great site, absolutely. There's all kinds of stuff written about it. In my book, you're going to see that I work on Madison County and talk about the beginning of Cahokia. And then when I get to St. Clair County, I talk about the end of Cahokia. So I'm not making this stuff up, guys. Okay. This is what I wrote in my Illinois book. In AD CE, in 1054 CE, a supernova happened in the Milky Way galaxy that, according to the Chinese and Japanese records, was so bright it could be seen in the daytime for 23 days and at night for nearly 2 years. The resulting remnant, the Crab Nebula, has been studied in great detail. They even referred to the growth of Cahokia around 1050 CE as the Big Bang. I find the timing compelling, especially in consideration of how, as Bill Eisenberg stated, the surrounding communities all moved in to help form one large city at Cahokia. Packetut and Alt also reiterated that Cahokia's building began in the middle 11th century. They added that around 1050 CE, the first Mississippians seemed to emerge here fully formed, following a simpler woodland people after the dispersal of the Hopewells. So I have to say that from all I've uncovered at Cahokia, Cahokia is the ultimate transition site from Hopewell to Mississippian with a lot of outside influence. Okay. But yeah, it's fun to think, you know, they were great star observers, weren't they? And you have to wonder what were they thinking when they saw this and saw this for so long? Okay, unusual artifacts. This is what I add to the witchery. Whenever I find something unusual, I give it a type. Now, it could be that this is the only one or the only two they ever created, but I give it a type because I don't know that, right? But do you imagine somebody's working on this artifact and somebody else says to him, hey, what you working on? And he goes, well, I don't know, I'll know when it's done, you know, because that's how their innovation happened, how their materials evolved. You know, they kept experimenting with copper to see what it could do. And it can do more than stone, obviously. You can't socket stone, right? So the one on the left and the one on the right are basically the same, except for a little bit of, you know, variety, because these are not stamped off of the factory. The one in the middle there, that one isn't done yet. That one is in the process of being socketed. It's not done. That's what we call a point blank, but I believe it belongs in that same category. Riverside site, Will County. Transition sites I mentioned before. X marks the spot. I found a lot of sites in Illinois that talk about having both Hopewell and Mississippian artifacts, or Hopewell and Mississippian structures, or something that shows that both the Hopewell and the Mississippians were here. And a lot of people want to say, well, the Hopewells disappeared and then the Mississippians, you know, arose. It's not, it wouldn't have been like that. I mean, you look at the Americans in the Civil War. We didn't just, after the Civil War ended, we didn't just stop and then start over. We evolved. We evolved from there. They evolved. That's the way it is. So all of the X's show in the, this is in the summary, which sites, which counties had transition sites from Hopewell to Mississippian. And what's really important about this is that it demonstrates without a doubt that the copper industry evolved rather than disappearing only to reappear later. A lot of people want to say that it didn't happen. All right, this is another thing I love looking at is the celt versus crescent. Now you saw the celt earlier. That little green one up there is the Mexican version, very similar to what we saw earlier, but this one is so paper thin that I don't think you could use it for much of anything. It's actually called tea coin in Mexico. They found stacks and stacks of these. They call tea coins. The one to the right of that is a toomey. That's what I call a toomey. Now, if you want to know what a spatulate looks like, that the toomey evolved from, you would take the middle part, like round it out, and they took a spatulate and they just started flaring it out. And then eventually it became like that one over there, you know. So what you got at the end looks like a celt crescent, doesn't it? That looks like a celt crescent. But you're not going to see that design in Alaska. The ulu really basically stayed a crescent. Now, I did a celt versus crescent survey because it's my belief that the celt or the crescent stayed north, the celt went down south and evolved as I've showed you. And what we find out in Illinois, the celt, there were 58, the crescent, there were only 15. Illinois being south, more celts. Northern Wisconsin, celts 39, crescent 234. That is a lot of crescents. And that's northern Wisconsin. I'll be interested to see when I do the rest of Wisconsin next year. I'll be interested to see what I find. Upper Michigan, celt 29, crescent 39. Lower Michigan, that's reversed, isn't it? Cell 28, crescent 6. So it does look that way. It looks like the crescent stayed north and the cell started evolving as it moved south. That's what it looked like. Now these codes on the side here, these are what you're going to find in the Witchery updated. That's just to show you what that looks like. But I do want to talk about the that aximony on the lower left there. That was found in Illinois. That was found with that necklace with bells and jadeite beads. And I'm not going to tell you what museum it's in, but its accession number is 3745. The necklace was like 3746. And two others that are said to be from the Nettler Mound were also 3748, 3749. The accession numbers were all consecutive. And I'm going, wait a minute, doesn't that mean? Because I got the impression the necklace and this was from the Nettler Mound in Illinois. And wouldn't that be great? We had established this Mexican connection in Illinois. And they said, no, we can't tell you where those were from. And I've done a lot of research at a lot of museums. And what I've noticed is that one accession number could have the collector's name on it. And then the other accession numbers follow in sequence without the name on it. But you know that those belong to that guy. Because then when they get somebody else in, they change the accession number to something else. That's been my experience time and time again. But you know what? I can't do anything about it. I can't say, I put a little bit of this in my book, but I can't say that that's from Mexico because they won't let me, basically. They won't verify it. And if they won't verify it, I can't do anything. The long green one up there was from Denver, and I'm going to Denver and 2 museums in New Mexico in June. So I'm looking at a lot of bells when I go there. Hopefully I won't have that kind of problem. I don't have that problem a lot, but this one is killing me. This is killing me. Okay, so let's talk more about the connections to the Americas. Okay, look at the waterways for one thing. The waterways indicate that we have connections, don't they? I mean, look at this. You can go from South America right up to the Mississippi River, just like that. But I do want to tell you what I found out doing this research, and that is that the Great Lakes copper toolers are earlier than any civilization of the Americas. They're earlier than the copper toolers in South America. They're earlier than the Olmecs. They're earlier than anything you can find in the South. Now, the South Americans started tooling in copper about 3000 BCE. They may have come from the Great Lakes and come down into South America and brought copper with them, but they found their own. And by 1000 BCE, they started smelting and got into a Bronze Age in South America. Now, South America, you can see this, right? I mean, how easy it is just to zip up this side and go to Mexico, right? So Mexico is a latecomer. They didn't start tooling in copper until 500 CE, and they have a source in West Mexico, a big copper source there. They got into annealing it in 500 CE. They began to use do the smelting in the Bronze Age in 1000 CE, and everybody assumes, well, they must have learned it from South America. Well, it makes sense, unless they learned it on their own, right? So that's fascinating to me, to know that around the Great Lakes, we are the earliest copper toolers. Now, there are some statements I put in my book that I put here. Joseph Caldwell, 1959, distinct Mississippian cultural features are paralleled in lowland Mesoamerica. Now that's taking the reverse stance, isn't it? Our Mississippian people brought their cultural features down into Mesoamerica. And that could happen, that can go both ways, of course it can. Bill Eiseminger in Cahokia in 2010 noted, and this relates back to our supernova, that Cahokia was felt to have been composed of a great many diverse groups living there. So they could have come from all directions during that supernova. The spatulate form found on the Illinois page 65 is also found in Mexico. Pacatot and Alt, 2015, point to the Ramey scroll found in Cahokia, which is similar to motifs of a wind god in Mexico and coffee mugs that contain black drink that bore this design. Black drink found in Cahokia, yeah, also found at Chaco Canyon. It's a Mesoamerican drink. The cross and circle motif, as we saw previously, was found in Fulton County. Shades of Quetzalcoatl in the scales of copper found at Cahokia and in Arkansas. Scales of copper, that's what it's called, scales of copper. I have no idea what it means. I haven't seen a picture. They call it scales of copper, not fragments, not, thin sheets, scales of copper. I found that in several sources. And Moorhead in 1929 gave us a list of similar items to Mexico, such as the monolithic axe, seated human figure, idol heads, plumed serpent snake, that's Quetzalcoatl, tripod vessels, engraved shells, small ear ornaments. Ear ornaments, actually a lot more in Ohio than you find down in Mesoamerica. So you wonder which direction did those go, right? Swords and truncated pyramids. Now, I don't know what the methyllithic axe is. These aren't all copper, so. Here's what I wrote in each of the, how much time do we have? Are we doing okay? Yeah, yeah, okay. These are what I wrote in each of the books about the Mesoamerican connections. In Michigan, Whittlesey includes things like craniology, the study of the skull. We don't do that anymore. Platform mounds, lines and circles of embankment, bricks to construct walls, worship of owls. I have never heard that one before. Worship of owls. There are other things which he wrote that just weren't true. I mean, for instance, he said that he got the dating of the Aztecs wrong. They did not arrive in Central America before 600 CE. They emerged in the Valley of Mexico around 1125 CE. And this aligns with the breakup of Chaco Canyon and the development of Casas Grandes and Pequim, Mexico, as well as the high point of culture at Spiro in Oklahoma and the Mississippians, or SECC. I think Cahokia was starting to, I can't remember exactly, it's in my book, but I put it in the book, I kind of forget about it. All right, northern Wisconsin. From Wisconsin, the copper tribes traded in their copper wares to the furthest limits of the United States and Canada. Mexico obtained its copper from them. Yeah, why not? That could happen. That's what Publius Lawson said in 1902. Tracking trade from Canada to South America is the idea behind the CIMD. This research is an attempt to confirm or deny statements like his and track how extensive and far-reaching the trade network was. Western Mexico had its own copper to develop and would more likely have traded with the Southwestern US. But I appreciate Lawson's idea. Mexico was a rather late comer to tooling in copper, but once they started smelting after contact with South America, they created wonderful pieces like celts, stylistically reminiscent of Hopewell. So you're going to see a lot of celts also in South America and the later Celt Crescent, which I'm referring to it now. Illinois, I wrote, with Cahokia as potentially unique for a Mississippian site compared to the SECC, which is the Southeastern Ceremonial Complex. I think you've all heard about that. I make a contentious claim that Cahokia was more of a northern outpost for the Mesoamericans. One reason is the use of cacao, the chocolate drink native to the American tropics. From the 11th and 12th century, ceramics from the 11th and 12th century were tested, and 56 revealed traces of the black drink. Some of the beakers were shown as having swirling and spiral patterns that are symbols of water and the underworld. I forgot to mention that that pendant we saw earlier was a small circular one with spiral pattern in it. I'm finding a lot of spiral symbols in South America. It almost seems like the spiral was created in South America. I've got to do more work on that. But yeah, symbolic of water and the underworld. Okay, That's pretty much it. I do have something else to read here, but what we can see though is a vast trade network is emerging. Trade value established for all locations. Connections made for resources. People would go to different places for the resources. Migrations happen all the time. People migrated up and down, back and forth. There are no borders. We do not have, the borders that we have today. There's no political borders, except for the sharing of resources needed to be equal. Violence was related to climate and need for rain, with sacrificial offerings found in a number of places, including Illinois and Wisconsin. Inability to feed large numbers created spatial, but not cultural, dissolution. New technologies inspired transitions. What's next for archaeology? When we think about the future of archaeology, we can think about it in terms of investigating what's already been found. But a lot of information at museums on their collections is scattered, and it takes some real investigative work to pull it all together. Believe me, I've tried, had been to a lot of them. Here's a comment I found in an article called Chicago Area Archaeology by Charles Markman that appeared in the Michigan Archaeologist in 1992. And you might understand why I think these copper manuals are valuable. He wrote, most archaeologists would agree that with the rapid disappearance of sites, the future of archaeological research will be with collections. However, anthropology departments do not formally acknowledge that the orderly maintenance of research collections is part of their mission, though they regularly sponsor field research. Collection maintenance is not rewarded as faculty service. If collections are in reasonably good order, frequently it is only because of the personal interest of faculty and students who have devoted volunteer time and effort to do this job. When such individuals leave the institution, chances are that space reorganization will result in data loss. Changes in faculty and staff generally mean that research collections get stuffed into inaccessible closets and separated from documentation. Quite commonly, materials and documents will then be lost in a spate of zealous house cleaning or deaccessioned with little record of where they went. So you see that problem that I had with that museum, who said that those were not found in an Illinois burial. I have problems now with Field Museum not wanting to let me in unless all Michigan tribes approve. And I got a no from one of the tribes that I cannot see. They would not let me see the NAGPRA pieces, even after I explained how well versed I was in NAGPRA because of my work at the Burial Museum. And I said to the Field Museum lady, I said, well, I think her name's Michelle or Melissa. Anyway, I said, well, what about the non-NAGPRA items? Can I see those? She goes, well, they have to say yes to that. And I've got to get the Michigan book out, so I did not pursue it any further. And she wanted me to go all the tribes, not just hear from one of them. And this is a museum that in my Illinois book, you're going to see me thanking 3 of them for their help. So it's changing. The world of archaeology is definitely changing. And I'm just really thankful that I've gotten what I've gotten to date, because I might not get a whole lot more. Anyway, thank you. Did anybody have any questions? I may have gone a little fast. Thank you.